Welcome to the Cannabis Regulation Commission meeting. Today is Thursday, March 5th, 2026. The time is 2:13 p.m. and we are in the council chambers at 200 North Spring Street, room 340, Los Angeles, California. I am President Thyris Mason and I will be chairing this meeting. The following commissioners are present: Commissioners Bierman, Farnby, McGovern, and Nash. I'm going to go over some housekeeping items before we get started. This meeting is being recorded, therefore we ask that when addressing the commission, you speak close to the microphone and only one person at a time. Please state your name each time you speak. That also applies to commissioners. This meeting is being live streamed. Individuals who wish to watch and listen to this meeting may do so by visiting cannabis.lacity.gov. We will be following the agenda order for the most part. Agendas are located on the table by the entrance door, along with speaker cards. Individuals who wish to address this commission must fill out a speaker's card and specify which item or items you're going to speak on. Individuals can provide public comment or comments about a specific agenda item. Please fill out a speaker card and turn it in to Irene. When I call your name, please come up to the podium and clearly state your name. We will consider general public comment and single or multiple agenda items together. Therefore, speakers will have 1 minute for general public comment and 1 minute per item with a maximum of 2 minutes for multiple items. In total, an individual speaker shall be limited to 3 minutes of public comment per meeting. We ask that speakers state whether they are providing general public comment and/or which other item or items they are speaking on before they begin to comment so that staff can appropriately time them. If the speaker does not specify which items they are speaking on, 1 minute will be provided. Representatives from neighborhood councils who have filed a resolution or a community impact statement with the city clerk which relates to any agenda item will be given time to speak during the item itself. Please provide a copy of the filed statement or resolution to the commission executive assistant. Any neighborhood council representative speaking on behalf of their neighborhood council must provide a letter on their letterhead stating the neighborhood council's position on the matter. Absent any neighborhood council documentation, comments may still be provided during the public comment period. PowerPoint presentations presented to the commission today will be posted online and made available to the public via DCR's website within 2 business days. Please turn off your cell phones or place them on vibrate so as not to disturb the proceedings. Please be respectful. Disruptions are not tolerated. I am designating authority to issue warnings for public disruptions to the city attorney in order to preserve decorum and help maintain order in the meeting. If you disrupt the proceedings, you will receive 2 warnings. If you continue the disruptive behavior, you will be asked to leave the meeting. We will now open general public comment and single or multiple agenda items. It's item 1 on the agenda. Are there any speaker cards?
There are no speaker cards.
As there are no speaker cards, both the general public comment agenda item and the single or multiple agenda item periods are now closed. Item 2, elected office, neighborhood council, and other public entity presentations. This is a reminder that any representatives of neighborhood councils who have filed a resolution or a community impact statement with the city clerk, which relates to any agenda item, will be given time to speak during the item itself. Please provide a copy of the filed statement or resolution to the commission executive assistant. Any neighborhood council representative speaking on behalf of their neighborhood council must provide a letter on their letterhead stating the neighborhood council's position on the matter. Absent any neighborhood council documentation, comments may still be provided during the public comment period. Item 3, commission business. Commissioners, you should have an advanced calendar in front of you with our future meeting dates. Please take a look and advise if there are any planned absences from any of the commissioners.
Good afternoon. This is Commissioner Farnby. I will not be available. I'll be out of town on April 2nd, 2026.
This is Commissioner Bierman, and I will also be out of town same date, April 2nd.
Noted, thank you.
Thank you. Any other absences, commissioners? Hearing none, we are moving on to the approval of minutes. We were sent the minutes of January 15, 2026 for review. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
This is Commissioner Farnby. I make a motion to approve the minutes from January 15th, 2026.
Thank you. Is there a second?
It's Commissioner Bierman. I'll second.
Thank you. Ms. Diaz, please call the roll.
Commissioner Farnby, Commissioner Bierman,
Aye.
Commissioner McGovern,
Aye.
Vice President Nash,
Vice President Nash, for the record, I should indicate that I was not at that meeting, but I have listened to it in its entirety. And I vote to approve.
President Mason,
Am I allowed to abstain?
Hi, this is Deputy State Attorney Amawada. An abstention is not technically permitted in our rules, so you would have to have left the room before the voting started. Otherwise, a refusal to vote will still be registered as a yes vote.
Okay, then I'm going to vote no because I have not reviewed the meeting.
the motion passes.
Thank you. Moving on to commission announcements and updates. Commissioners, are there any announcements and updates?
I'm so sorry. This is Deputy City Attorney Emily Wada. Can I ask that we take a brief 5-minute break at this time? Wait, no, I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. We're good. Never mind.
Are we sure?
Yes, I'm sure. Thank you.
Okay. Any announcements, any updates? But I did want to announce that on Tuesday, I believe there was a city council motion to move forward with the tax amnesty program for social equity operators. I don't know if you all got to see that, but just wanted to announce that for now. Excited about that. We're moving on to future agenda requests. Commissioners, are there any future agenda requests?
Commissioner Farnby, going to your statement around the taxation, I think it would probably be good to have that on the agenda to see the impact of the taxation and for this body to closely follow that. I think we've heard from quite a few of the business owners here, and I think as a commission it would serve as well to kind of stay locked in on that topic.
This is President Mason. Commissioner Farnby lives in my head from time to time. I was going to request the same thing, so I look forward to seeing that on the agenda. Thank you. Any other requests for future agenda items?
This is Commissioner Bierman, and I just wonder whether it might be worth getting like an updated briefing on the illegal like enforcement piece, because I think that was now a bit ago, maybe 8 months ago. So I don't know if we could have somebody from LAPD just like give us a quick briefing on, how it's been going since then.
Absolutely. Any other requests for future agenda items? Hearing none, we are moving on to our discussion of Council File 26-0124. You all should have a copy of that motion in front of you. And this was presented by Councilmember Padilla, Councilmember 6th District, seconded by Heather Hutt, Councilmember for the 10th District. And the motion was to request that the city attorney draft and present an ordinance that establishes a requirement for type 10 retail cannabis license applications to include letters of support from the corresponding neighborhood council, the council office where it will reside, LAPD, and a community-based organization that serves the community where the cannabis business would operate before approval to open and operate is granted. So this is just a discussion. We are not submitting a position on this council motion at this time. I just thought it would be something good to bring to the floor, just to sort of suss it out, think tank it out, and possibly discuss the impact it may have on granting licenses in the future if it becomes part of the ordinance. So don't be shy.
Yeah. It's Commissioner Farnby. How much time do we have for this?
We have time today.
Great. So I have, I know this is a discussion, but I have a few questions that maybe I would like to pose to my fellow commissioners, and hopefully this can create some sort of opportunity for us to understand the basis of the motion. My understanding regarding requirements is that currently the neighborhood councils is a requirement for the business owner to reach out and to engage with that body prior to coming before this commission for a approval for a license. That is my understanding. And also from what I'm gathering here based on what is being requested for this ordinance is additional requirements that includes the neighborhood council. It includes the council office, the police department, and a community-based organization. It doesn't say specifically, but I'm assuming that that means an organization that is connected to that community in which the business is opening. I don't know exactly what the parameters are for that. And I've had, I guess for me, like, I would like to really understand, and, maybe you all as commissioners have some thinking around this, the rationale around the additional steps. I do get, and I think just my history on this commission, I'm a huge supporter of community input. I think that that's important. I think that the cannabis industry is heavily regulated from what, at least from my experience in terms of the code and the steps that need to be taken to establish a business in Los Angeles. I think obviously this would include additional steps in that process for licensing. I just wanted to, I guess, engage the commission around your thinking or thoughts around the additional steps is one question I have, and then even further around council's rationale around proposing. The last thing that I would say, just at least on this specific topic, is that we have, and we've heard it time and time again at this body, have heard from business owners that have come before us that have made statements around folks who are trying to go through the right process to establish their business are doing the right thing. And we have illicit folks who are opening businesses that are not doing the right thing. And they're not following these steps. And so while I appreciate and even agree with the community input and all of the different stakeholders, I'm just not clear on the rationale behind it when there's already embedded in the code and regulations that neighborhood council is a requirement before licensees come before this body. I know that was a lot, but I got more to say. So out of respect, I'm just going to step back.
This is President Mason. I just want to clarify that neighborhood councils aren't currently required to provide a position statement or a letter of approval. The dispensary owner only has to offer to go before them. The council doesn't have to receive them at all. So this changes that a little bit. And I will also want to point out that the department does have community meetings on the businesses before, they come before us, and they provide notice within a 700 feet radius, I believe, to residents. So the community has an opportunity to weigh in at that point as well. If community is feeling disengaged in the process, even with the department offering that, is that something that should be looked at a little further to figure out how to engage community in a more meaningful way?
Yeah.
My concerns regarding this, I understand a little of where it's coming from, but I'm just questioning, how do you establish objective factors for a letter of support, and how do you establish objective factors for denial? I'm concerned that something that is purely subjective is going to lead to litigation down the line, which would have an adverse impact on the applicant, because I would only imagine that would extend their application period. And the amount of time that, it's just a longer waiting period for them to open their business and get down to what they really want to do. So those are some of my preliminary thoughts.
This is Commissioner Bierman, and I just plus one on that. And objective factors isn't even mentioned, right, in the instruction to draft the ordinance. So it very much seems like council office would have sort of a open-ended veto on new retail cannabis locations in their district, which gives them a ton of power. And what's to happen if an applicant simply can't get the approval because the council office doesn't want it, and there's nothing that the applicant can do about it. So that's a little concerning to me. To not have objective factors that, if they're met, as a matter of right, you can open your business. And I'm not sure there are other businesses that are so contingent on getting this sort of open-ended support from the council, or the specific council member.
This is Commissioner McGovern. Yeah, I think we should look at the cannabis process to get a permit in the context of other city processes for businesses applying for licenses. So my understanding is for a conditional use beverage permit to sell alcohol, there's a hearing, the council office and the public have an opportunity to take a position, but council approval or a letter is not required to move forward. Likewise, council offices have an opportunity at our commission meetings to take a position, as they have done so in the past. And as mentioned, there are mandatory public community meetings before approval. And I think we should do everything we can to encourage all stakeholders to participate in those meetings, because as part of the department's recommendation, we do receive a detailed summary of what occurred at the meeting, how many people were in support, how many people were against it, and what their concerns were.
Thank you. Vice President Nash.
This is Vice President Nash. I like the preamble to the motion. And I think that it would be beneficial for there to be some mechanism for community reaction, community input to a retailer, to have some impact on the decision as to whether or not a specific license is approved or not. However, I also believe that the motion as drafted would be treating cannabis businesses unfairly. And even in the preamble, it it says cannabis businesses like any other commercial enterprise. And but then it goes ahead and treats it quite differently, and I think that's unfair. Um, I also believe that the motion as drafted would make the approval process highly political and would cause a dramatic chilling effect on people considering going into the cannabis business because they essentially have to have all four approvals in place before they invest any time or money in seeing if they could operate a business.
Yeah, it's Commissioner Farmby. I just want to say for the record, if it's not known, I'm in full support of community engagement regarding the establishment of the cannabis business in any neighborhood. I think that that is a cornerstone, in my opinion, of the industry, this young industry, right? We're talking about since what 2017. This is still fairly a new industry with regulations that have been taking place across the country as cannabis has been legalized in different municipalities and counties and states. I think that um, the intent, at least from what I'm reading, and I have not spoken to anyone, and I would actually love to kind of speak to the councilwoman on this, both councilwomen, to kind of get a little bit of an understanding around the intent. But I believe just taking it from pen to paper here, the intent is to create an atmosphere of more community engagement with the specified stakeholders that's been listed. Um, I I agree with the intent. What is coming up for me is the implications of what the intent could could be, um, which is not spelled out here, and I'm not sure if there was any thinking around the processing of the motion, but is it a requirement for each stakeholder to provide the letter? Is it a majority? Is it, if one disagrees, does it mean that the business owner is not able to establish the business in that community? When we talk about the organization, the community-based organization, what type of organizations are we speaking of, right? So I do believe I understand the intent of the motion, but it does raise a lot of questions around the implementation of an enforcement around this and what the impact would be on the business owner. I think, in my opinion, that this creates an opportunity to have a conversation around community engagement when it comes to establishing legal cannabis industries in communities. Um, and I think, just kind of speaking for myself, those are some things that are that are coming up for me that unintentionally, I guess, are creating other questions. Um, but yes, I just want to say that I do get and understand and agree with what I believe the intent is, but I think there's something to be said around how do we really engage the community, not just the stakeholders that are specified here, but how do we engage the community where a business is being established in a way where it's kind of honest, it's open, it's sincere, it's engaging, and I think that's what the attempt is. But based on how it's worded, there's questions that come up for me around what the impact would be of establishing that business in that community.
This is President Mason. I'm just thinking, I know that we have had meetings where um, the community has felt like they have not been heard. And I imagine that this motion is born of complaints that stem from that frustration of not being heard. But I'm just still stuck on, and how do you standardize this? Does it cancel out the part of the municipal code that says that is based on safety, which is how we grant licenses, or which one would take weight over the other? Are they equally weighed? To your point, Commissioner Farndy, who are the community-based organizations that are weighing in on this? And then, there's that potential for good old tail in all of this. And that greatly concerns me, the ability for someone to bribe someone into writing a letter of support and buying your way into a license that someone else may not use that same mechanism to attain a license. The intent is good. I just wonder if there's another way besides creating another barrier to entry to factor in the community voice in the decision-making process. How can that be codified at minimal risk to the city?
It's Commissioner Farm. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you? Oh, it's Commissioner Farmby. Again, I agree that President Mason, and I don't know. I want to pose a question to the body here, but what's the status of this motion? Does anyone know? What's the current status of the motion? Yeah.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Jen from DCR. This motion has not been scheduled before committee yet.
Oh, cool. Well, to weigh in on that. Commissioner Farmby again. Yeah, so I think, I know that this is just a discussion. And, I've heard from everyone here. I don't know. I think that it probably would be helpful, considering that it's not been scheduled yet, to maybe hear from the councilwomen's office on this, right? To kind of understand. I think it would give one a little bit more clarity to this body to kind of understand a little bit more in terms of the foundation and the intent, hearing directly from the maker of the motion. Be an opportunity for us to maybe ask some questions around it, and really kind of maybe even do some sort of dive on, discussing a different, some alternative ways around community engagement, if that's kind of what's being getting, we're trying to get to here. But that may be something that, at least in my mind, that could be helpful for this body to hear from the maker of the motion, from the councilwoman's office, to understand that a little bit more. Could be something that maybe on a future agenda item that could be, something that we can actually discuss in the future.
I agree. I again appreciate the spirit. I think the community should be empowered.
Yeah.
With respect to any kind of business adjacent to their homes.
Yeah.
I again just don't really have any vision on how that voice could be codified and empowered to the point of either approving or disapproving a license, and still have that body held harmless while using their voice in this process.
Yeah.
Because if a CBO just simply says, okay, I don't like the business here, and that's that, it's like, okay, then I'll sue you. The neighborhood council, if they say no, which I'm sure with neighborhood council, city attorney, and the Department of Neighborhood Environment would recommend best practices for them to consider these things. So I'm less concerned about litigation against them. And if so, in their role, they are represented by city attorney in any lawsuits. So as is the city council member. So that just leaves the CBO. And how realistic is it that we're going to get a letter of support from LAPD? Because we haven't seen one yet.
Yeah.
Yet.
Yeah.
I can, yeah. So
yeah, this
it'll be interesting to follow this and see what recommendations are drafted that so that when this comes back before us, we can talk about those a little bit further. But for now, I almost have to leave it to minds greater than mine, because I don't see a way to bake this into the code without making it another barrier instead of something that's supposed to be community enhancing, and without risking litigation liability to the city. There has to be another way of doing this.
Yeah. Commissioner Farnby. I have a legal question regarding the code and the establishment of an ordinance connected to the code. I, I don't understand how that works. Like, can you explain that? You know, mind?
Hi, this is Deputy City Attorney Emily Watt. Would you mind rephrasing that question for me?
Like, so there's a code, right, regarding like the process of the licenses, and the motion here speaks to an ordinance that's related to the code. How does that?
That's just
Commissioner Bierman, I think, I was just gonna say, like, wouldn't the ordinance would propose amending the code, I would assume.
Yeah. It's just jargon.
You're changing it to
It's amending
the code to impose new obligations as part of the licensing process.
Okay.
Correct. So
Okay.
the city council would have to pass an ordinance. The ordinance is going to have some crazy long number, but it's essentially just going to change or insert a new portion into the municipal code. So the
Okay.
ordinance will have its own number, but it's going to insert something into the municipal code. Likely it'll probably happen in the 10403 section, is my guess, but who
Okay.
knows?
Okay. Understood. Yeah, I wasn't clear on that, but thanks for the explanation. Yeah, I mean, look, I think there's good intention here. It seems to me that at least, again, my understanding is to encourage community input. And I think there's a way to do that. I think this specific way kind of creates a few additional steps in terms of the requirement and implementation, which I think has some consequences. Potentially, it has some huge consequences that I have questions around for the licensee. But I think it would be worth hearing from. I would love to give the council folks space to kind of talk about this a little bit, considering I know this is just a discussion here, but maybe it can be something that we could actually plan for, and have folks from the councilwoman's office to kind of come before the body and kind of explain a little bit more around the motion considering it hasn't been scheduled as of yet. That's my thinking.
This Commissioner Bierman, I just have one question, which is, what is the current requirement around community engagement in the code?
This Commissioner Farley, I believe President Mason, they're required to reach out to the neighborhood council, correct?
They're required to reach out to the neighborhood council. The neighborhood council has an option of yay or nay of engaging them. This would mandate neighborhood council engagement. Yeah. An
And
interesting approach to a restorative justice program. I will say that.
This is Deputy City Attorney Lee Wada. If I may also point out one difference is that the current system requires applicants to reach out to neighborhood councils, but if the neighborhood council is opposed, I mean, it's, I guess, just noted for the record.
Mhm.
And that this ordinance, at least the way it's initially phrased, seems that it would require them to actually obtain the letter of support. Whereas now it's not only do they just have to reach out, but it's almost like what the neighborhood council ends up saying is not end results determinative. Right. So if you don't end up getting their support, it's not a death knell to your application.
Yeah, this Commissioner Bierman, I'm just wondering if there's something that's like more than what's currently required, but not a letter of support, that is that can basically stop your application in its tracks if you don't get it. So
Exactly.
some
Right.
showing of good faith engagement with these four groups, something more than that is currently required, but they don't hold a sort of veto over your business.
Yeah,
I thought the same thing. That's a great point. I was wondering, like, if one of these letters is a no, what does that mean for the application?
Right. Right. Yeah, this Commissioner Farm, it doesn't mean that you need all four. You need, probably 50%. Like, and I know, look, I know this is a motion, and I believe that at least just reading it kind of gets to at least the core of community engagement. But again, in reading it and seeing the intent behind it, just raises other questions for me regarding the process of granting the license. And so that's why I was thinking that maybe it's an opportunity to really kind of get into that conversation around what it means for community engagement. Because I'm sure there's a way to think that through, and talk about what that means. Because I think that I do believe that it's important. I do believe it's a cornerstone, and I believe that folks in neighborhoods should have a voice around that. It's just that at least how it's framed here just raises a few questions. I mean, it could be something around like maybe the requirement like for the neighborhood council, it could be for the other entities, but it's not necessarily requiring the extra additional steps of the, I guess the quote unquote letter or recommendation. I think that there's a lot of ways to think about this. But I do believe it would be helpful to kind of get clarification from the councilwoman's office.
I have questions for the department. I think I know the answers. I should know the answers. So the community meetings, the hearings that take place, are the dispensary applicants required to attend those meetings and engage with the community?
Hello, this is Ryan Solis. No, they're not required to attend.
Okay, and they're not required to meet with the council office either, just in terms of presentation.
Correct.
And they're technically not required to meet with any CBOs either. Is that correct?
Correct.
So it's just an offer currently to the neighborhood council.
That's correct.
Okay. Interesting. And there's nothing in the code that requires them to engage or initiate any type of community engagement or community awareness? Because we've heard that a lot. Oh, we didn't know that a dispensary was even coming into our community.
Outside of the outreach to the neighborhood council, the offer to appear.
That's it.
There are notices that are sent to the nearby businesses within 700 feet. The department ensures those mailers go out, but
Before.
beyond that, there's nothing in the code.
Yeah. And those notices, by the time those notices go out, I'm just indulge me, please. Thank you. Most of the infrastructure of the business is built out. There may be some signage there. The cameras are present. Like, at what phase of pre-opening would the business be in? And I know it's not, that's not a cookie cutter answer because everybody builds out differently at a different rate, but just a rough.
Right. It could vary, and it could be a lot different now that we're in a different phase of like licensure with the state, and provisionals not really being as big of a thing. Obviously we're talking about retailers, so there are equity retailers. But by the time for most applicants that were at this point, most of the build out, I believe, would be done. They've had an initial inspection done of the property, different things like that. And we do provide them with a poster as well that they are required to post at the establishment. So if someone is to walk by or drive by, that there's information there about when the community meeting is going to happen, when the CRC meeting is going to happen as well.
Thanks, Ryan. Sure. Commissioner Farnby. I heard you mention that you send notices out to the businesses or like near the 700 feet kind of threshold. Are there any other notices sent out to any other folks in the community or any stakeholders?
So emails go out as well. We do send out emails to the entire neighborhood council list that's provided by the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment. Those are on every single email that we send. The applicant gets that email as well, obviously. So there is that initial outreach that's done, and all of that's pretty much happening simultaneously around that 20 days in advance of any of these meetings happening.
Okay.
So question, has the department considered inviting applicant to the meeting to maybe do a mini presentation to the community and further engage?
I apologize. I missed the first part of the.
Oh, no, I asked, is the applicant invited to attend the community meetings to maybe do a mini presentation and some engagement at that point?
You're speaking to the community meeting?
Yes.
Yeah. The applicant's made aware. We encourage them to attend, to provide, if nothing else, their own input on how they think they're going to, have their impact on the community. But again, it's not a requirement.
Gotcha. I'm just wondering if a little bit more engagement at that point, I don't know if that would still change the spirit of this motion, which really is empowering the community to say no. We don't want this business here.
Yes, Commissioner Farnby. The more and more we talk about this, the more and more I think I kind of understand, at least just listening to the department, listen to Ryan, on when we talk about requirements, right? When we talk about requirement, it's like the requirement is to reach out, right? But it's like there's no, at least on the back end, there's nothing there that kind of holds or speaks to the community. And when I say community, I'm talking about in a broad sense, not in the stakeholders in the motion, but there's nothing there on that side of the process that kind of encourages a requirement of engagement from community stakeholders. So kind of just listening to what I'm hearing, I kind of understanding it a little bit more. But again, at least for me, what still remains is that it is specific stakeholders that are named, specific requirements that is expected from each specific stakeholder, which I think from a process perspective and understanding implications and implementations is still a question for me, even though I think I'm kind of getting it and I'm hearing it. But I think that there's a way for us, not just us, but just in general with the community to figure out the level of engagement and that creates an environment of encouraging people to want to engage around it. Because I mean, we've heard it like some folks is, oh, I didn't know, or there were some issues we know with some folks who are cool to the community. We've heard that as well. So I think it's a plus to kind of do a deep dive on that regarding engagement. I think that this current mission, even though I think the intent is as well, again, just raises some questions, at least for me. So I'm gonna pause there. I've been talking way too much.
Thank you. This is President Mason. We've raised some good points. I'm just remembering a meeting where there were suggestions to the applicant about community engagement, and the outcome was that he met with the community once. And I'm like thinking that's not what I had in mind, but we can't attach conditions like that, specific conditions in terms of ongoing engagement and ongoing communication. Communication, as we all know, will make or break a relationship. And if you only meet with the community once, have you really invested? Are you really, as this letter says, integrated into the community? Are you really a part of the fabric of that community by only engaging the community once? So I was very disappointed to hear that only one meeting had gone forward and there were no plans for future meetings. The applicants coming before us are all social equity applicants. And this is supposed to be a restorative justice program, as I mentioned earlier, but they're also doing it in a space where there's still a huge stigma about cannabis.
Yeah.
And my personal thought is that the onus is on the dispensary to do what they can to dispel that stigma. And that doesn't happen with just one conversation. It can't happen in the space of one community meeting that the department hosts, and they may or may not show up. So maybe there should be a mandate during the application process for them to actually be there and present to the community and field the community's questions and hear their concerns and address those concerns before they come here to this space where, most of that is done by then and by the time they get here. And we're really just focused on the compliance aspect of granting the license and the safety aspect of granting the license. So there is some room earlier in the process for the community's voice to enter in a little more powerfully than maybe it does now. Because if I get a notice, okay, a cannabis business is opening, I may or may not know what questions to ask. I may or may not be able to even attend the meeting on that particular day, but and I may not be motivated until later on to engage in the conversation. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Commissioner Farmby, on the agenda on the commission business, this is agendized as a discussion, correct?
Correct.
Is it appropriate for President Mason, or is there a motion that we can make on like on this to maybe hear from the council's office, or is that not an appropriate motion for me to make here?
To answer your question, this is President Mason. I have requested that this remain a standing item on the agenda so that we can follow the progress. And there is a request for the council offices to send representatives to help expand the conversation and our understanding of what they envision this to look like. And we know why it's necessary, but how does it look like implemented, codified, if you will? And how does it tip the scales in the decision-making process?
Look ahead of me on that one.
Okay. Hey. Were there any other concerns I should add to the request since this is going to be on our agenda? Any other areas you all would like to have covered when council offices do present to us on this? I see two heads shaking over there.
Good.
One head shaking to my left. Okay, I think we're good. I think we've exhausted this topic. Thank you for weighing in on this, and I look forward to further deliberations on this council file. So we are now on to, I'm supposed to admit on the record that I actually was present at the January 15th meeting. I misunderstood and thought it was the last meeting. We're not going to go back and reconsider that vote. Just wanted to correct the record to reflect that I was present. We are now on to item, as soon as I turn a page, 4, a report from the executive director. And we do have a report, but not from, we have it from her proxy.
Good afternoon, commissioners. My name is Jen American. I am the Public Information Director at DCR. I will be talking about rescheduling today, and I am joined by my colleague, Dr. Imani Brown. She will be talking about the social equity program.
Thank you.
All right. In December of last year, the White House signed an executive order asking for the rescheduling of cannabis from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3. While an exciting development, I want to caution that unfortunately, this doesn't do anything to change the status quo. As of today, cannabis remains a Schedule 1 drug alongside more powerful and addictive narcotics like heroin. Schedule 1 drugs have no recognized legal medical use compared to drugs in Schedules 2 to 5, which all have permissible medical uses. Before cannabis is moved from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3, there is a significant administrative process that must occur. The DEA must host a public comment period and hearings in which stakeholders and the public can participate in. It's important to note that rescheduling does not mean that recreational cannabis will be legal at the federal level or that interstate cannabis commerce is allowed. This change would only authorize the use and sale of medical cannabis. We do not know how it will affect the pharmaceutical and health markets or how federal criminalization laws will be affected. Rescheduling could have some positive impacts, including allowing businesses to deduct business costs for the purposes of federal income tax filings. Medical cannabis consumption could see reduced barriers to federal employment and make cannabis research easier to pursue. But at this moment, I want to be clear that cannabis remains a Schedule 1 and that nothing has changed.
Thank you so much, Jen. That was my request for a report back, and you have reported back. And I understand. Thank you very much. Dr. Brown?
Yeah. Good afternoon, commissioners.
I'm sorry, before you start, were there any questions for Jen, commissioners?
Hey, Jen, it's Farnby. I'm not trying to put you in the hot seat here, but can you go back to the previous slide, please? So considering that, the rescheduling, based on at least what we know from the federal perspective, what what does this mean? I understand exactly. I heard you loud and clear regarding the current state. That's not changing anytime soon. But what is the point of this? Is just like an update, or is there any significance to a process that is going to be underway that could potentially impact the rescheduling of cannabis?
So you mean the point of the executive orders?
Yes.
Um, I mean, it's an executive order. It doesn't really do anything. It is up to the DEA to, interpret as they wish and, issue this notice of proposed rulemaking, but the executive order itself has not done anything.
The DEA hasn't taken any.
That's the body.
Correct. The last time the DEA did make a move was in 2024 when they issued a notice of proposed rulemaking and a public comment period was opened. But when the new DEA director came in, the hearing was canceled and it has never been rescheduled.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Next slide, please. Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm Dr. Brown with DCR, Social Equity Program Director. So this slide that you see is just a snapshot of the social equity licensed market. We have 354 active social equity licenses. This equals over 30% of all of our licenses in the market at large. Now, during our most recent renewal period, which ended in February of 2026, we had over 80% of our social equity licenses renew. 295 records received $4.1 million in waivers for renewals. Next slide, please. Now, the social equity program offers numerous resources for our equity entrepreneurs, some of which include grants, free and low cost legal services, business coaching sessions, and a robust suite of online courses and webinars. In 2025, Social Equity Program received $3.5 million in grants, which it combined with leftover funds from past grants to provide full waivers for all license type renewals for social equity individuals. Social equity individuals were able to renew licenses for all activities at no cost to them. In 2026, this year, SEP received another grant from the Governor's Office of Economic Development, or GoBiz, for $3.5 million, which we expect to use in the same manner to ensure that all of our equity licensees don't have to pay license or renewal fees out of pocket. In addition, last year, SEP delivered 20 new webinars. We provided 164 sessions in free and low-cost legal assistance, and we booked 123 business coaching sessions. I'd really like to invite more of our social equity individuals to take advantage of these business development resources. And they can please reach out to the SEP team to get connected with those resources. Thank you. Any questions?
No questions, but I love it. Surely, Commissioner Farley, thanks, Dr. Brown. It's always good and refreshing to kind of highlight the work of the social equity program. I think, at least for me, when I was considering kind of coming on this commission, it was one of the things that I was moved by. And I think that, as a commission, we want to be grounded in knowing exactly what it means. And I've asked a lot of folks who come before with social equity applicants, like, hey, how do you use the program? Right. And I think it's good just from you highlighting just what's on the screen here. And I would encourage, even though I know we don't see folks here today, encourage them to use the program. And it's always good to kind of see you and hear and report back on all the wonderful work that you're doing. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Question. This is President Mason. So Your programming, does it speak to the different phases of operating a business, like entry level, you know, you're 5 years in, you're 10 years in, this is what you should be doing?
To that, this year we are initiating what we call a white glove service, if you will, and we're trying to reach people where they are in the licensure process. To your point, those who are just starting up, those who are not operational, those who are more mature in their journey, and putting together like a program for them in terms of, okay, these set of courses will help you, you know, referring them to get legal services, referring them to coaching based on where they are in their licensure process. It's a heavy lift,
Mhm.
but we're trying to communicate in a different way. Emails, people don't, that's not their first course of receiving information. So we've put a lot of resources into our texting campaign. People read their text. So we do that. We're calling people individually. We have appointlets where we are available, our staff, along with licensing and compliance, to talk with people one-on-one in terms of the resources that they need or the help that they need. We're doing all that we can to make sure that we can hold on to the entrepreneurs that we have. But so much of what they need is out of our purview, as you know. So we're trying to do what we can with the resources that we have.
Are there any other types of podcasts in Loop, or aside from Jason's Lunch and Learns? aside
Our
from
live
traditional
webinar,
suite?
we
Your
just
live-
had 2 this week. In December, we had a webinar on predatory practices and partnerships. November, we had one on finance for cannabis businesses. In October, acquiring compliant real estate. In August, inventory management, state licensing update, and one we're really proud of, incorporating AI in your cannabis business. So we're really trying to give folks different kinds of information for free. They can, hop online and look at these webinars at their own pace over and over again. I don't know any business industry in California that has this kind of outreach for up and coming, startups. And so we do have information that's relevant today. The market in 2026 is very different than 2020. And so we're really trying to keep our finger on the pulse of the community. We have a stakeholder advisory group, people who are on the ground working every day, and we meet with them quarterly to see what their challenges are in real time. And then that helps us with the efficacy of our programming.
Thank you for that. Send me the link to the AI webinar.
I will. I learned so much.
Watch that.
It was great. It was really great.
It's interesting. Well, thank you both for your reports. Commissioners, last call for questions.
Commissioner Farmby, I just want to thank Jen and Dr. Brown. I think this was helpful information. I think the more, this is shared on specifically on these 2 aspects of the industry, I think will be good. I mean, keeping a close eye on. I know that what Jen was saying is like around the DEA is kind of like the deciding body within the government to determine what happens, but the fact that the executive order was kind of moved at least signifies for me that there may be something there for the future. So being able to kind of have our hands on the pulse, I think would be good.
Thank you. We are moving on to item 5, DCR Core Record number 320051. The applicant is Sweetgrass Enterprises LLC. The recommendation is to receive and file, and no action is necessary. Therefore, the matter is received and filed. Item number 6 is DCR Core Record number 320109. The applicant is Urban Smoke LA LLC. The department's recommendation is to continue the matter to the commission meeting of April 2nd, 2026. May I have a motion?
This has time for me to make the motion.
This is President Mason. I'll second. Ms. Diaz, please call the roll.
Commissioner Farmby,
Aye.
President Mason,
Aye.
Commissioner Bierman,
Aye.
Commissioner McGovern,
Aye.
Vice President Nash.
Aye.
The motion passes.
Thank you. We're going to reopen agenda item number 3, just as a last call for future agenda items. If there aren't any more to add to the list. Okay, then I'm closing that item. I don't have a concluding speech. It's good to be back with you today. The last meeting was quite a harrowing in my house, but Mother Nature, what can you do? You can't control her. But I'm glad to see each of you here. Thank you all for being here. Thank you, commissioners, for your service to the city. The time is 3:19 and this meeting is adjourned.